Hi, I'm going to get started. There's a couple of people that usually come, but they're a bit late today. I'm going to start. So this week's portion is in Exodus. We're still in the early-ish part of our story, and we're in a portion called B'Shalach. And we're at the stage where the 10 plagues have happened, and finally, Pharaoh has woken up and has said to the people, B'Shalach, you can go out. He sends them out. This is Pharaoh is sending out. This is B'Shalach Paro to the people. He's sending them out. Paro. Finally, he says, you can go. And soon after allowing them to go, of course, he has another change of his mind. And he decides to chase after them and all the way down to the Red Sea or the Sea of Reeds, various translations of the sea. And the Israelites, of course, get very scared when they see the entire army of Egypt coming for them in chariots and armed men coming after them. And they're trapped between the land and the sea. It's a sort of not just a trap in physical terms, a trap in mental terms, somewhere between freedom and in slavery and liberation. And luckily, or miraculously for them, the sea parts and they pass through on dry land, and the pursuing Egyptians, the sea comes back over them and drowns them. And there's an idea that Pharaoh finally sees that there is this God. It's not all magic tricks. And Moses and the children of Israel sing that song of the sea that we sing every day in our services, actually. Every morning in our service, we sing the song of the sea that Moses sang at the side of the sea. And then, of course, they've already complained at the side of the sea, if we're between the rock and the hard place, if we're between the land and the sea, and we're going to die, couldn't we have just died in Egypt? Why did you bring us out here to die? Which is how most of us would react, I suppose. And then once they get through this miraculous moment, they suffer from thirst and hunger, and because they're in a desert. It might be a desert of their mind as well. And they complain to Moses and Aaron all the time. And God sweetens the bitter waters of Marah so they can drink from it, and performs all these miracles where these free people suddenly are given food to eat. They don't have to work for it at all. They've just come out of being slaves and working all the time. And now they're given manna to eat every morning. And then they complain that there's not enough variety in their food. So they're given quails, so much quails that they're sort of coming out their nostrils with eating quails. And they're given this manna each day, which completely, unlike most foods which you can preserve, this one you can't. It's this miraculous food that is only going to last you that day, and you have to eat it that day. You're given just enough for that day, and if you store any of it, it completely goes off, which is another interesting idea that that food can go off that fast, and that you're only given that day's supply. Apart from on Friday, where you're given 2 portions of the food, and it doesn't go off the second portion because it's Shabbat and you're not meant to gather things on the Shabbat. So you're given a double portion. So all these amazing things are happening. Some people, of course, go to gather more food on the Shabbat. Of course, there isn't any there because there's only a double portion on Friday. And right at the end of this portion, the people are marching along. And of course, they're marching, the stronger people tend to be at the front, marching along into wherever new place that they're going to go to. And the stragglers and the weaker people and the slower people at the back. And Amalek, who is a king of the Amalekites, they're named after him, comes at the rear and starts to kill the people at the back, the weaker ones at the back. And so we have a tradition now that in every generation there will be somebody who is like Amalek, and we must remember to erase his memory. It's a very interesting one, because if you just forget something, you forget it. But if you remember to erase it, it's sort of etched into your memory, not to do like Amalek, not to be like Amalek. What's currently happening, I have to say, in Israel was an attack on unguarded people, children, and people at a festival. That was, in our eyes, a very Amalekite type action. There's lots of themes that go through this particular Parsha. The hardening of the hearts. Pharaoh's heart is hardened. I mean, he's already against letting the people go, and his heart is even hardened further. And that's an interesting one, because there's a whole load about free will. You can choose to believe and not to believe. And Pharaoh has definitely said, I don't know this God. I don't believe in it, even in front of all that's happening, all this evidence. I don't believe in this God. I'm God. My ego is God and not God. There's also the theme of faith in your ancestors' God, because they've been in slavery for a long time. So they've had no real help or evidence or anything of this wonderful God that created the universe. And yet somehow there's a faith in this ancestors' God, even though they're being oppressed and their children are being killed, their firstborn are being killed. Moses, the whole story is that he's pushed down, not firstborn, all males, sorry, he's pushed down the Nile by Miriam, his sister, and found by Pharaoh's daughter, because he was going to be killed, all male babies about to be killed. And yet somehow they still keep this faith. There's a theme of being free from oppression, but also dependent on God for all your supplies. Which, how free is that? And then there's issues of fear and trust, whether you fear God or you trust him. And of course, we see one of the first ones is faith that's come through even in bad times. But this time it's coming through because of miracles that are performed. And the Song of the Sea is very much the Lord is my strength and might. He has become my deliverance. This is my God, not just my ancestors. I will enshrine him. The God of my father, I will exalt. So it's not just that they're honoring the God of their ancestors, but they are, of course. They also are putting their trust. They've discovered this God that is still with them. And it's this wonderful mix of taking on your ancestors' culture and keeping it alive, even in the midst of all this suffering. And then they get to experience God in their own lives. A lot of us keep our ancestors' religions or faiths and cultures going without that sort of miracle, or so we think, in front of us that the Israelites have. But they somehow, for all the time in Egypt, kept some sort of faith going in God. And at the Sea of, when the sea splits, they can definitely see that miracle in front of them. As I said, the fear and hardening of the heart, that Pharaoh doesn't know God, and he's fearful of his loss of these people and loss of his ego. But the Israelites also fearful. They've been enslaved. I don't know if that's also a mentality thing. It's not just a physical thing. So they become fearful of things. And They're always complaining we could have gone back to and died in Egypt and stuff. In this Parsha, they're not led near the Philistines, this sort of Greek colony that's down in the south. They're led away from there because they might be scared of these armies that are coming for them. So they're very fearful, and their fear of going forward, they keep reminiscing about slavery in Egypt and their fear of being independent. And even in front of all these miracles, and that manna makes them a bit dependent. They're really almost like children in the wilderness. They're being cared for. We all want these gifts. We think, oh, wouldn't it be lovely to win the lottery and have all this money and stuff? But then we become dependent on stuff. So what makes us free? Is it to be given stuff all the time, or is it to earn it ourselves? And we all ask for evidence all the time. And even when we have evidence in front of us, we might not be aware of it. Pharaoh isn't aware of it. And there's a whole thing about the splitting of the sea is also the splitting between the dry land and the water. We can see dry land, we can't see into the sea. And suddenly there's evidence in front of him that shows him that there's this other sea, this other stuff to see. On the whole, we're just not very good at being aware of miracles in front of us. That we wake up every morning is that miracle. We have a prayer that not a prayer, a thanks that we say. Most of our prayers are actually blessings. Thank you for letting me live, sort of thing. And can we believe in God in bad times? Can we only believe in God in good times? This has always been a problem for people. When we suffer, we're good at seeing suffering. We're not so good at relieving suffering. We don't help that much. We think we are, but we don't actually. We do a lot of virtue signaling, but we don't do virtue so much. And we're very good at feeling as if we're suffering. A lot of us wallow in feeling of suffering. There's, as I've said before, in the health industry, which has become an industry, there's a saying, she enjoys poor health. There are people that enjoy being miserable. Melancholy is their happiness, as one of my teachers once told me. So some people enjoy wallowing in suffering. We're very poor at recognizing miracles and awe and wonder in front of us. And we're very poor at understanding that life is a gift. It's not a right. You don't have a right to be here. You are here. It's a gift, and it's given to us in love, and we're meant to return it in love. It's like a host and guest relationship. We swap roles of receiving and giving all the time, or we should be. Love needs a lover. God needs a lover. That's why that great poem, the Song of the Sea, the Song of Songs, is all about this relationship of love, of being given love and receiving love, and then giving it back. It's a lover needs something to love, just like chaplains need patients, otherwise, or students, otherwise, who are they caring for? We're no longer children, and we need to have a grown-up relationship with love, with awe, and with wonder, and recognize the miracles that we've received, and we've received lots. Even if we haven't had the sea parted in front of us, we are receiving lots and lots of miracles. And so I thought we would just think about that for a moment in a meditation. And so if you want to, for a moment, close your eyes and relax into your chair and just feel yourself into your body for a moment and breathe in all through your body and out. And see the winds that carry your breath. There's sort of air circulating. Just imagine that wind circulating around, and you're receiving this breath of life. And then you breathe it back out into the earth, to all other living things on the earth. The plants take it up, other animals take it up. All the mammals and insects and birds and fish and trees all breathe your breath, and you're breathing their breath. You're circulating the breath, and the winds are taking your breath to them and their breath to you. And you're breathing the breath of all life on earth. And when they breathe out, you breathe in. And when you breathe out, they breathe in. Just enjoy that for a moment, that you're in this whole environment where air, winds are circulating, the breath of life. And we're coming up on Thursday, we're doing Dvar B'Shalach, the new year for trees. And if you're around, you can come and celebrate at 1 o'clock with us, eat lots of fruit. And the trees put oxygen out into the atmosphere and take in our carbon dioxide. So when you breathe out, you're helping the trees to grow. It's all connected. This miracle is all connected. We just don't see it. The air is transparent. This breath of life. And just feel that air, those winds circulating to you, to all living things. And then just breathe out. And enjoy that for a moment. Sharing.